Okay, episode 8 of Picard, Broken Pieces. To preface this, I'm going to say that this episode is full of phlebotinum. What is that? It's a bunch of talk and exposition and stuff that's supposed to make the story work. And, in truth, this episode, to me at least, feels like it's left over from the initial time that they shot this season, because it's known that they did extensive reshoots, that they added in Riker and Troy, and that the whole episode 7 was reshoots. So this feels like a leftover episode that they had to then make jive with the last episode, because just the entire tone of this episode feels off and different to me, and there are pacing issues too. So we begin here in this, what did you call it? An octenary star system. Okay, so 8 stars, planet. And we go to the grief world, and we're looking at the admonition, is what the Romulans call it. And they came, the foremothers. Foremothers, really? Why are they all... I don't have a problem with women. I don't have a problem with foremothers, but I do. It's like, why can't it just be men and women? Why can't it just be Romulans? Why do you have to make a statement right from the get-go? Which, it's like the Quat Malat, they're warrior nuns. So, the Zhat Vash are women. So I guess they're two warring top secret Romulan sects that are all women. What is up with that? Okay, so the foremothers came here to solve the riddle of the eightfold stars. So, one thing, Discovery has been accused of stealing from other stuff. Okay, the riddle of the eightfold stars, that immediately makes me think of the three-body problem. Somebody read the books, The Three-Body Problem, which are some hard sci-fis about a trinary star system and about how the orbital mechanics work. And they very lightly borrowed that idea to create the riddle of the eightfold stars. Or that's at least what I'm thinking here. That seems very likely to me. So you get the foremothers here standing around the PVC pipe of wisdom, which has been CGI enhanced. This is very low budget. And this is 14 years ago. Ramda's here, and they're telling the story of how they came here to solve the three-body problem. The eightfold star problem. And they touch the thing, and they see all this bullshit. So, this android morphs into Data here in a second. You know what, people? Get ready for a retcon, because I guarantee you it's going to turn out that Loooong came here to this octary system, and he learned of, or maybe not here, but he went to the homeworld of the synths, and he learned how to create synths from them. And they're going to retcon Loooong, so it's not his own artistry, it's not his own work. He created a synth based off of this alien race that are the destroyers. So get ready for a Data retcon. And here in this whole thing of images that these foremothers are seeing, it shows a rotting fox. And if you Google rotting fox, this is the first Google image search that you get. So literally they're not even making their own imagery for this. They're literally taking images off of Google and putting it into the show. They're not thinking that some nerd's going to go through this frame by frame. They're not thinking anybody's going to see this, But they have to be, because people review these. So what were they thinking putting this in there? Because it's so lazy. It's Google. Oh my god. So there's a Data retcon coming right here. It morphs into Data. And then you just get all of these. Okay, this right here, that looks like the United States. I'm sorry, but that's going to be the big bad guy right there, is the United States. The United States is coming for you. It's going to be a big space butthole, and it's the United States, and that's your enemy right there. And this is what the United States is gonna do. And so this thing goes off, and the admonishment, that's what it is. Yeah. Okay. They call what happened with these things the admonishment. And it causes everybody to go crazy, and they kill themselves. Ramda rips her hair out. One person bashes their head in with a rock. One person shoots themselves in the head with a generic sci-fi disruptor that's supposed to be a Romulan disruptor but isn't. And I guess she's a psycho bitch, so she isn't affected by it. And Commodore O tasks her with being the inheritor of this holy mission to take down all synthetic life. And they're the only ones who weren't affected. And you get this whole thing here with Ramda, and I've been calling her Rizzo, but apparently her name is Narissa. I don't know when that was introduced, but apparently her Romulan name is Narissa. Anyway, she says that the Borg picked the wrong Tal Shiar ship the day when they assimilated her ship, and that they should have picked her ship. That she would have made a much better Borg. So that tells me that for some reason, the Romulans were out trying to snag themselves a Borg cube by getting a Tal Shiar vessel assimilated. And I guess Ramda broke the Borg cube and shattered, the collective, and they got cut off and literally shattered this cube because of the admonishment that was in her head, because of all the torment in her head from these AIs. I swear to God, these next 2 episodes had better be good, or this whole thing is going to be so pointless. At episode 5, I was thinking I'm going to buy Picard on Blu-ray, I'm going to buy it on digital, I'm going to own this like I own everything else from TOS through Enterprise to the movies. And now I'm not so sure, because this is just, the writing is getting Discovery level here. I mean, I just want to see some exploration. Why does it have to be this big, huge galaxy-ending event that Picard finds himself in? It's too much. Anyway, she asks if they found Legolas, and it turns out that he's hiding in Hugh's old office, and it turns out that the Fenris Ranger tag that he found, that the internet was like, turns out that was Hugh's. And it wasn't Picard's, it wasn't dropped, it wasn't a plot hole. It was Hugh's, it was given to him by Seven. He gets attacked by Romulans. One thing that I forgot, back here she's talking to Ramda. She uses the word panache. It could be just a translation of a Romulan saying that means panache in English, saying that she had panache when she lost her mind and she took down the Borg cube. But the fact that Ralphie used the word panache when they were going to Free Cloud just seems weird to me to recycle words. I noticed that in books, when you have different characters and different POVs and different settings recycle sayings. It sounds weird. So here it sounds weird that she used the word panache. Yes. So Hugh has an SOS Fenris Ranger dealie just like Picard did, and he activated that. And he gets attacked here, and they set off a flashbang, which Romulans, Vulcans, inner eyelids, you'd think a flashbang wouldn't affect them, so I hope it's a super special Romulan flashbang. He gets attacked, and he has to go ham on them, and he cuts them down. Seven shoots down the ones that he can't take, because I think he loses his sword. And he's in awe of her when she shows up, which, let's be fair here, who wouldn't be in awe of her? She asks, "Where's Hugh? What's going on this cube?" And he hugs her, and she's like, there, I'm here, I'm here. She's just like, what is happening here? Oh, okay. And so we come back here, and Rios is having PTSD because he's meeting Soji for the first time. and we're not really supposed to be sure what's going on, but there's something going on. And Picard asks for a secure line to Starfleet and tells him what's the nearest starbase. He says DS-12. I wanted to see DS-12. I want to see another deep space station, goddammit. Anyway, he says we're setting a course for DS-12. I'll get you a link to Starfleet and then I'm done. I'm out. That's what he says. And we don't quite know why. Picard, she says, you were going to take me home. You said you were going to bring me home. And he's like, you have to trust me. I know that you don't trust me. I know that you're angry. I know that this is hard, but we need help. We need support. You just have to trust me a little longer. She's like, okay. And Rafi pulls a gun on him. And she says, you know, you're trusting her because of a positron. Because of a pissant positron. Pissant? Sure. You know, it feels out of place to me, but sure. And she asks Picard, do you know how big of a fool you are? And he's like, what? She tells him about Agnes. He's like, is this theory or fact? And she says, theory. But she basically says, we think that he killed Bruce Maddox. And he tells her that she just needs to put it down. She needs to... She tells her that they were being tracked and that everything that happened. And he said that if you're going to shoot her, you're going to have to go through me. And that gets her to stand down. And then they bring her down here. And the EMH explains to Picard that he was shut down. That Bruce Maddox didn't need to die. And all of that, which... Are you telling me that this EMH didn't reactivate for 2 whole episodes? I guess on Voyager the EMH couldn't just activate himself, but it feels like to me that somebody would have checked with him. But I guess she didn't erase the logs because the EMH tells him that she shut me down and that she did this. And that she tried to neutralize a Viridian tracker that she ingested, which, Viridian. Okay, that's good. That's a callback to Star Trek 6, the Viridian patch which Spock put on Kirk's back. That was good stuff. So the Tic Tac that she ate is a Viridian tracker. And the thing that she injected herself with was to neutralize it. And so, plot thickening, Picard knows what's going on here. Then he meets with Commodore O, and he tells her that he needs a squadron. He needs a fleet of ships, and he explains everything. And he's like, oh, I'm not as crazy anymore as you thought I was. Not senile, not all this and that. And then she starts trying to talk, and he goes, look, if you're going to tell me that I'm being hyperbolic, I'm being crazy here, you're a waste of space. It was so nice to hear him tell her, Admiral Clancy, that she's a waste of space. But then she says, just for once, Jean-Luc, just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Hearing her tell Picard to shut the fuck up in Star Trek Picard, that made me so angry. I just didn't like hearing her tell Picard to shut the fuck up. And then Rafi is here, and she sits down to talk to Rios, but she can't tell that it's one of the holograms, even though he's wearing different clothes. His hair is different. He's obviously acting different. So this whole bit with Rafi here, she has to go with the holograms. This all feels like filler. This feels like they didn't have enough story here, like they had to reshoot scenes, like they had to take stuff out that didn't work anymore since they reshot the last episode and they had to replace it with other stuff. So this feels like reshot material here. So as he sits down with Enoch, who is the ENH, the emergency navigational hologram, and he tells her that Rio set a course and then he activated all the holograms. He's able to recall the name of Soji is Jana. And he says that they've met before, and she's like, how is that possible? And he says, I don't know. Ask me about astronavigational stuff. So she brings this up, and she's like, when I was scanning the Romulan cube, I saw all these images, which, again, last time when I did my review of this, I was like, what the hell is all this imagery that she's looking at? I was lost. None of that made any sense to me. And I couldn't really tell what it was, but I guess somehow she hacked the cube, hacked their surveillance system, and was able to see all the pictures the crazy Romulans are drawing. I Can't for the life of me tell you how that is, but she asks him about these symbols, and he tells her about octary systems. So there you go, octary. And she also uses the word awesome, saying that it's awesome that this actually could be something, that it's the conclave. She thought the conclave of 8 were people, but it turns out that they're planetary systems, and it's awesome that she isn't wrong. And again, that's more millennial speak. I want to say they've used the word awesome in Star Trek before, but to describe something truly awesome, not like, oh, that's awesome. So that was just blah, blah. More phlebotinum. The whole conclave of 8 thing, she figures it out, the octary star system. Then we go back to the cube, and we find her dead Romulans. And she finds this, she's like, Fenris Rangers, and it's gonna be that Fenris Ranger. So apparently she knows who Seven was, even though the Rios did in that other episode. There was that weird scene where he's like 19, 18, something. Just like, she's from the Delta Quadrant. She's a Borg. He's like, she's a Borg, and she's a Fenris Ranger. She's that Fenris Ranger. And he couldn't remember her name. He didn't know who she was. That scene was so weird that he didn't know who 7 of 9 was, even though that when she beamed aboard, Picard's like, 7 of 9. And then Rio suddenly doesn't know her, but he knows other stuff. Well, here, Narissa knows, Narissa, whatever her fucking name is. She knows who 7 of 9 is. She's like, not hard to guess which Fenris Ranger it is. So she asks if there's something they can do about all the Borg who are in stasis. And they're like, we can blow the seals and jettison them out into space. She's like, ooh, I like that. Do that. Okay, there's a problem with that later, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And 7 comes in here, and she's with, okay, all these holograms and stuff that she's fucking around with, they look cool, but this brings me back to a video I saw from Trek Yards. This looks nothing like a Borg cube. You know, in Voyager, whenever she interfaced with a cube or cube systems, there was like a backlit panel on the wall that would be curved, and she'd put her hand onto one icon to let her interface with the whole thing, and she would punch in controls. There were never holograms and shit like this, so I don't know how she knows how to just work these holographic systems like this, because this is never how the Borg were depicted. So this makes no sense to me. And Elnor basically asks her something, and she's like, oh, I can't do that. And he's like, well, what about this? What about this? She's like, look, either we can focus on this, or I can focus on stealing this cube. Which will it be? So they're planning to steal the cube, and you can tell she knows what she's doing. And she throws the little icon up, and it starts this whole, I guess that's supposed to be the interplexing beacon, or the finculum, maybe. I don't know, but oh boy. You know, I think these sets look cool. I think the cube looks cool. I think all of this CG looks cool, but it looks so not Borg. Like, this looks cool, but it doesn't look Borg. And so they're stealing the cube. That's what they're gonna do. And the Centurion tells her that the cube is beginning to regenerate itself. The cube is beginning to regenerate itself. And then we get this. I guess there are Borg cockroaches that walk all over the hull and they repair and regenerate stuff. So we're supposed to believe in Q-Who, when we saw the cube rebuilding itself, that there were little robots that came out and that they rebuilt the cube, which I don't think I like that. I always liked the idea that the cube could literally just rebuild itself and everything just went back together and everything could just move independently on its own. I always thought that was a lot cooler, just seeing it rebuild itself, and now there are all these little nanobots that do the rebuilding. Oh boy, okay. So we get this whole scene between Soji and Picard where she basically asked she asked Picard to tell her about Data, and he explains to her what Data was like, that he had a child's innocence, he had no bias, no judgment, that he always made them laugh, but never when he was trying to make them laugh. She asked if Data loved him, if he loved Data. He's like, I loved him in the way that I was able to. And she's like, did Data love you? And then he says, the Data had a limited range of processing and expressing emotions, and he thinks he kind of had that in common with Data. And she's like, he loved you. So this was a good little scene. It's touching. She's getting to understand things. She's understanding Data. I like that. And then we get another scene, which is, the Enoch, the navigational hologram, already told Rafi that Rios was in his quarters. This is an incredibly tiny ship. If he's in his quarters, he's in his quarters. You don't have to go looking for him. But then we get this scene where she goes and she's like, Chris, is that you? And it's a Scottish engineer hologram, which is the emergency engineering hologram. His name is Ian. And he says this one line, I done ken for sure. Ken, K-E-N, means no. That is an old slang term spoken by Scottish back in the 16, 17, 1800s. I done ken. That's a thing that Scottish people said. But here's the thing, is that is not a very ubiquitous, or it's an anachronistic thing. It's not very ubiquitous in current understanding of old-timey speak. And the place where that K-E-N word, meaning no, whereas I don't know, instead he says I don't ken, that no came in recently from the book Outlander, which has been turned into a TV show, which is being run by Ronald D. Moore, who did Deep Space Nine, who did Battlestar Galactica. Whoever is writing for this Scottish emergency navigational hologram has done a lot of watching of Outlander, and that's where they got Ken from, because it's slang term that, as far as I know, has not really been used very widely in anything, and Hollywood writers wouldn't really know about that slang term unless they heard it somewhere. So I'm pretty sure whoever wrote the Scottish hologram has been watching a lot of Outlander, and that's where that Ken line came from. That doesn't really matter, but I thought that was interesting. Sure. And she asks where Rios is. He's like, oh, he's off in his quarters. And she asks about Jana. And whenever these holograms look something up in their database, their eyes flash and you see like some text go by. It almost looks like something from Ghost in the Shell, except it feels very un-Star Trek-like. He says he knows about Jana, but he can't tell her anything about him. He's like, you want to ask me something engineering-wise? And she asks him about the octary system. She said, why would somebody build... It's like, what are the odds of that happening in nature? He's like, not very good. She's like, so somebody would have to build that star system. Why would somebody build a star system with 8 stars? And he says something pretty funny. He's like, because they're showing off? Look what I can do. That was pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, why else would you build a star system with 8 stars in it? Because you're showing off. Look what I can do. Really, it's supposed to be... She puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that it's supposed to draw people's attention to the planet there, so they'll come and they'll see the warning about artificial life, which, again, the whole thing about artificial life bad, they did Control on Discovery, now they're doing this. I can only imagine that this story that they're doing is social commentary on how the unfolding and emergence of AI right now is going to spell the end of existence for mankind. As if the coronavirus isn't going to end us first. They're sitting there talking about AIs being bad. They did that in Discovery. They're doing it in Picard now. I guess they took Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking's, warnings to heart, because they're doing Star Trek shows about AI bad. And, oh my god. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, right here. You see his eyes? They go, blah, 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 blah. That's like a Ghost in the Shell thing, and it's very distinctly un-Star Trek-like. Then she goes into her quarters, and she tries to order alcohol, but apparently 2 days ago she locked herself out from doing that, including Meta. And the emergency hospitality hologram checks in. He's like, yeah, you're not allowed to do this. And he gets very up in her face, telling her that Rios needs somebody to rely on, needs companionship. And he gets very weird and close. What was up with this? Her like backing off as he's like getting up in her face? It was very, very, very weird. And she's still looking for Rios. He's in his quarters. It's a small ship, yet she can't find him. And if she locked out alcohol 2 days ago, we should have seen this. But you know what it is that this is a scene that had to be put in there from either reshoots or it's left over from the original set of scenes. And it's padding, and it makes very little sense. Because it's been very inconsistently depicted that she's an alcoholic, she's a drug addict, she's not, she is, she's not. One episode, she's completely clear-minded. The next episode, she can barely stand and she's downing a bottle. You know, they haven't depicted her dependency very well. And now that she's... And look, here's a replicator, not a 3D printer, an actual replicator. Stop it with the 3D printers! Just use these, that's all you need to do. This ship has both. It has the 3D printer replicator and it's got actual replicators. Just no. No. The 3D printer bad, that's good. But this whole scene made no sense because we should have seen her lock herself out from alcohol. We should have seen her battling this whole thing, dealing with this whole thing. Well, we haven't because the show is a mess. There are pacing issues everywhere and they reshot a bunch of material, added stuff in, stuff got cut out. And so at one point we probably did see her fighting with her substance abuse more, but they probably cut it out, and that's why this scene exists, but we don't actually see it. Whew, okay. So then we go into Rios' room, we see all these books that he reads. He's got a lot of interesting books here, which, you know, yeah. And then he's got Surak. He's got a Surak book. Thought that was interesting. And then you see he's got a bunch of mermaids around, and the ship's name is the La Sirena, which is Spanish for the mermaid. So I thought that was also cute. That was interesting. He's there getting drunk, and he's not doing well. He pulls out his crate. He's got a bunch of records in there, which, sure, why not? I bet he replicated all of those. He's got his old uniform. He's got the right Starfleet insignia, thank God. You get a really interesting little look at the ship there. It almost looks like a Sovereign, but not quite. What it looks like more to me is the USS Emmett Till from the Deep Space Nine documentary when they did a hypothetical season 8. That's what that looks like to me. Pulls this out. He's got a lighter in there. He's got a little round thing. I'm not sure what that is. He's got a skull in there, a rock. He's got a picture. He's got his rank pips. That's a lot of rank pips. What's up with all those rank pips? Well, he's got rank pips. Pulls out a photo. Man, I just... One character. Pull out a pad. Turn on the pad and have a digital picture. Or pull up, you know, a holographic window and pull up a picture. Why is this show showing everybody with paper photographs with physical media? I get it. Some people would have those. But in TNG and Voyager and Deep Space Nine, 99% of everything you saw was digital. And in this, I think it's a special effects saving measure, but again. And he pulls this out, which, again, I feel like, okay, beautiful flower, which I'll get to him later. He sketched this. I feel like he should have sketched it on a pad, and it should be a digital image, and he just pulls it up on a hologram, blah, 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 blah. And so Seven's here, and she's working on the cube, and she's trying to figure shit out, and she's still going through here. And she's talking about that she could assimilate all of the drones that are still in hibernation into a mini collective and get them working. And Eleanor tells her to do that. She's like, enslave them, take away their individuality again. do this, do that. If I do bring them into a little mini collective, I might not want to let them go. And so she's struggling with what to do here. And again, this whole 7 of 9 story that's going on here feels like one consecutive piece, and it's intercut with everything else. The pacing is so off. You know, if this is all happening concurrently, there have to be whole pieces of what 7's doing here that aren't being shown. There's not enough going on. This could be its whole own thing, but it isn't. So now we get another padded Raffi scene where she's trying to figure things out, and she's with all of the holograms. And again, this scene seems so out of place, but at the same time, it's a great little scene. I enjoyed this. She's trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, and so they start telling her about the Egypt Magin, which is Chris Rios' old ship. And apparently, she's never been told the story by Chris of what happened with his old ship. That his XO, executive officer, or CO, commanding officer, whatever, that his captain killed himself. And his ship got erased from the registry. Apparently, she's friends with Rios and knows him and everything, but he's never told her the story, where when he first met Picard, he said that his ship was erased from the registry. So, after knowing Picard for 2 minutes, he already told Picard more things about himself than he ever told her, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, I feel like this is a newly reshot scene that was put in here to pad out the episode, because there's not enough story to go in this episode, and they have pacing issues everywhere. We find out that the captain killed himself. His name was Alonzo Valdemir. The tactical hologram, his name is Emmett, and he's like the lazy one. He's constantly sleeping. And he tells her that Valdemir shot himself. She's like, oh, okay, that's dark. And she tries to look up records on the ship, but they're like, don't bother, it's classified. So somehow she never heard about any of this, which is weird to me. And again, you got them trying to look up information, and you get that little ghost in the shell blinking in the eyes. Sure. And they also tell her that there are 5 pre-installed holograms to come, and Rios scanned himself and made each one of these guys an aspect of himself, but then he never bothered to go in and fix it, but he deleted certain information from them. It's weird. And so here, Picard talks to Girardi about, oh, wait a minute, there was something I forgot here. One of the Scottish hologram, God, there's so many of them. Ian, his name was Ian. Ian says something very Scottish that you can't even understand, and the word Ken is in there again. And then, Raffi just kind of looks at him, she goes, I mean, that isn't even a language. That was a funny little scene. But again, saying, I mean, like saying, I mean, that is a contemporary saying. That is something you never heard in Star Trek. It's not out of place. It fits just fine. It's not a problem. But that just shows more millennial speak. Just putting that out there. But I do like her whole, I mean, that's not even a language. I thought that was a very funny little line right there. And then Picard here is talking to her, and he's like, who was he to you? He was your mentor? Your lover? And he can just, he can just intuit all of this from her, and he's picking it up. She asks if he believes in hell. He kind of scoffs. He's kind of like, bitch, please. She's like, well, that's what I see now, and now I think about suicide, and it comforts me. And that's, like, dark. And she says that if we don't stop the artificial life, that's what's coming. She basically tells him that, mind melded with her, put poison in her mind, and that showed her a bunch of stuff, and she put a mental block in her head so she can't talk about it. Picard tells her to fight. She says, I can't. And she says, all I know is that that there's a line in the sand that you can't cross with artificial life. And once you get to that threshold, then everything is off. And she says that Soji is, and then Soji walks in, and she says, what is it? She's the coming of the the Seb Sheneb, something like that. The Seb Sheneb, the Destroyer. Yeah. And so she comes in here to talk to her. And there's that goddamn replicator 3D printer. Why? When you've got other replicators right out there. Is that the table out there? See... Oh, I just noticed something. So if you look right here, that right there is the mess hall, and it's in front of the med bay, which is in back. Then from there, you got to go up these stairs, and that takes you right to the bridge. That's going to create a continuity error a little later on. I'll get to that. But she comes here and basically introduces herself. Then we come in here, and Rios is listening to a record. And Rafi overrides his door, unlocks, and comes in. And she asks him if the record player is his Walkman. He calls it a Walkman. I mean... Really? Telling me in the 24th century they don't know what a record player is? I mean, sure. She's a regular... You know, there are kids today who don't know what a VCR is. But I think it's kind of funny she calls it a Walkman. It's a little cringe-inducing, but it's funny. And there's a real replicator, not a 3D printer. She replicates him some coffee, and she sits down with him, and she starts asking him some questions, and says they were in the Vayat sector, and that they beamed aboard 2 people. One person, his name was Beautiful Flower. That was literally the name of a guy. And the other person was Jana. And he starts telling her the story of what happened. And we go back here, and Girardi's telling her that she's got birthmarks, that she's artistry, that she's a work of art, that Maddox outdid herself. And she's like, am I a person? She's like, am I a person to you? So when you look at me, am I a person? Is that what you see? And Girardi can't answer her. All she can talk about is how amazing she is, how beautiful she is. And she's like, you would kill me if you got the chance. I want you to know that I would never give you that opportunity. And she's like, now that I've met you, I would never try to do it. And she thinks she's so amazing. She thinks she's so beautiful. She thinks that's all she can say. And they have this whole talk about what's going on. And then while Rios is explaining the whole suicide thing, and that they got a black flag directive from Starfleet to kill the 2 people who they brought on board, which, and then the Eben Magic would be destroyed with all hands on board if they didn't kill the synthetics who they brought on board. I get it. A Romulan who infiltrated Starfleet is issuing these orders, but Starfleet would never do that. Starfleet would never destroy one of their own ships with all hands on board just to take out 2 synthetic life forms that they deem a threat. They would never issue a black flag directive. They would just never do this. So he says that the captain just one day became a cold-blooded killer, and that 2 pops from a phaser, and he took out the 2 people who come on board for a first contact. Okay, that right there, 2 pops from a phaser. They're talking about a phaser like it's a goddamn gun. Like it's an actual gun with bullets, and it fires rounds. I don't think they've ever watched a Star Trek episode or movie or TV show where they fire a phaser, because it fires a nadion beam. It's got a button that you push. It's not pops from a phaser. You don't talk about it like that. And then he says that he put the phaser in his mouth and he pulled the trigger and he killed himself. It doesn't have a trigger. It's got a button. Push the button. It's not a trigger. Just... Okay. He says for no fucking reason. So that's your second F-bomb right there in the episode. No fucking reason. Shows you the picture. Turns out that Beautiful Flower, the first person that came on board, sketched this while they were there. And that's Jana. I feel like this should have been done digital. Should have been sketched on a pad. It should have been drawn on a pad. You know? just... And so she comes here, she takes a gun, she takes a disruptor from one of the Centurions. She goes in here and she phasers down, or disruptors down, and kills a bunch of XBs. More 3D printer food replicators, just stop it. Oh, it's just so painful. And one of the disruptors, as she's gunning down XBs, for some unknown reason, just it fizzles out on her and fries, and she looks at it and is like, huh? Doesn't make any sense. And so she shoots him, it fizzles out. But Romulan disruptors just fail when you use them too much. What was even the point of that? Why? Why would this thing do that? What is the point of the scene? What is the meaning of it? Why would you even write that? That one of them just failed because she's using it too much. And then she gives it back to him. She says, "Apologies, I seem to have broken your gun." She calls it a gun. It's a disruptor. She wouldn't call it a damn gun. Okay. So Eleanor points out that lights are going out, that XBs are being killed. She gets angry. She knows what she has to do. And then we get this big panning shot of the cube, which makes the cube look very hollow and very open, which I guess they are, but still. She asks the Centurion if they scare him, and he said he'd be a fool if they didn't. Yeah, I mean, he would be a fool if he wasn't afraid of all this. Seriously. She says, "Are we ready?" He's like, "We are." So 7, she has no choice. She plugs into the cube. It plugs into her back. Holograms appear down her back. What? You've never seen anything like this ever happen with Borg before. Then her eyes turn black and images appear. And she, in this distorted voice, suddenly she says, "We are Borg." And it's just like, what? What? I mean, sure, it's cool. She's linked into the Borg, and she's a temporary queen, I guess, or a command drone or something. But we saw a Voyager episode where she had to create a localized collective, and her eyes didn't go black, holograms didn't appear on her back, and she didn't have a muffled, weird "We are Borg" voice, and she didn't have images appear in her eyes. This isn't 25% different, it's like 75% different. And so they all come on, "We are Borg." And you start hearing them, they're like, oh fuck, they're reactivating. So they blow the seals and blow all the Borg out into space. And there's a problem with this, okay? Yes, there's decompression. Yes, all of the atmosphere in the cube would suddenly be rushing out. But, think about Scorpion when Chakotay tried to eject all the Borg into space. They held on. They didn't fight. They did fight. They held on. They tried to prevent themselves from being blown. They were still decompressed. But this was just way too easy. It's like the second they blow all the seals, these guys are just sucked out into space, and it looked so fake. I mean, with that much oxygen inside the cube, it wouldn't all just go out all at once, And even then, in First Contact, we see drones out on the hull of the Enterprise E installing the interplexing beacon on the deflector dish. They don't have any spacesuits. The vacuum's not affecting them. They're moving around in the vacuum just fine. So, I think all these Borg are supposed to be dead, but realistically, 7 should be able to beam them right back onto the cube, and they should be able to regenerate, and they should be fine. These drones should not be dead. And this was stupid. And the way they were all just immediately blown out into space when they open up, quote unquote, blow the seals, and they all just go flying out. It was a cool visual, I'll give them that, but it wouldn't quite work the way that they depicted it. It just would not. So we get this whole meeting, and Girardi comes, said, I'm done murdering people, so that's a good thing. And she says, you are all the closest thing to a crew I've ever had. She worked at the Daystrom Institute. She's never been to space. Why would she ever have a crew? She said, sorry I had to fucking ruin it. There's your third F-bomb. Just... Rios goes over to a real replicator that isn't a 3D printer. And he makes French fries and peppermint. And he says that he knows this because that is what Jana liked. If Jana is an AI from another planet and she's not human or anything, why would she like French fries and peppermint? Why would that be something that she would like? Soji loves it too. Because Soji is her sister, apparently. Why would Soji love this? Why would Jana love this if they're making first contact with the Federation for the first time? The only reason I can think of is because they met Soong, and Soong introduced them to human food, so she knows what she loves of human food. Because they're gonna retcon Data that Soong met these guys, and that he learned how to make sense. And the Data and Lower and B4 all come from this race. They're gonna retcon it so that Soong wasn't the genius anymore, and they're gonna change it. And so they basically have this whole conversation about basically what happened that 30-40 years ago. Well, that the Jat Vash was formed because they found out AIs are going to wreck everything. And 30-40 years ago, Soong started creating AI in the Federation. And so a half-Vulcan Romulan infiltrated Starfleet, got to the very top of everything, and Commodore O became Commodore O. And they set about orchestrating Mars and all of that, and they put all the pieces together, which this seems so convoluted and so forced and so just pieced together. But Commodore O infiltrated Starfleet to orchestrate Mars, to make them ban synthetics, to make sure that they get rid of synthetics. For the last 30 years, that has been the only thing the Jat Vash have been interested in, stopping the Federation from creating synthetics. Well, they let Data go for a pretty long time. They didn't do anything during the Dominion War, during TNG, Voyager. And then, you gotta remember, the Defector. There was that Romulan that said, I know a host of cyberneticists who would love to be this close to you. And Data's like, I do not think I relish that idea very much. He's like, nor should you. So, this whole idea that the Jat Vash have been for 30-40 years watching Starfleet and had this whole plan of getting them banned and stopping them from ever being created. This is so shoehorned in there. It doesn't fit. And he tells them about Beautiful Flower and Jana and all of that. And Soji realizes that her sister was killed, was murdered, and what's going on and everything. She stands up and she hits the table and she dents it. She doesn't knock over the ice cream, but she knocks over the fries. She says, excuse me, I've got to go. Now here is the plot hole that I just noticed. So, sickbay is behind them, I think. Yeah, look, sickbay isn't behind them, so they're in front of it. So the only way to get up to the bridge is to go up the stairs that's right behind them. Right? So in the next scene, we see the ship powering up. And she's here at the controls. And Rios and Raffi come running from the back of the ship, where the warp core is. But if they were just down, and they were like, what are you doing? But if they were just down in the mess hall, they would be coming up the stairs that are right here behind the captain's chair. They wouldn't be coming from back here, from the back where the warp core is. This scene is put in here, and all of this is reshot footage that was put in there. So they have her going upstairs, but they're coming from the wrong location back there. They're coming from the wrong place in the ship. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. They're coming from the wrong location. So there's a continuity error here. This is a reshot scene, and they fit it together, and they got them coming from the wrong place, but they should be coming from down here, not back there. So yeah, that's an oopsie. And Rios basically sings a song that lets him shut down the ship in the force field. And he says, I don't like people playing with my stuff. She's like, where are you planning to go? And she's like, I know about transwarp hubs somehow. As soon as I found out all this stuff, I suddenly knew lots of stuff. And she knows where the nearest node to get to the transwarp network is. He's like, really? You're going to go in there without a structural integrity field, without a chronoton field? That is Technobabble Easter eggs from Star Trek Voyager, courtesy of Christian Breyer, I almost guarantee you. And Picard comes in and says, you know what? We've done everything everyone else's way. She's done everything my way. She's done things Maddox's way. She's done things your way. Let's try it her way for a change. Let's try listening to her. And then Picard sits down and tries to start the ship back up. But then he does this funny scene, which I kind of liked. He turns and he looks at Rios. He's like, actually, I don't know how to work this. And she basically just says, please, you need to take me home. So he's like, okay. So they decide to go to the transwarp conduit, even though the Rios has pointed out that they can't go to the conduit because they don't have the correct integrity field, because if you remember Voyager, they have to project a structural integrity field in front of the ship before they enter into a transwarp conduit. They also have to project a chronoton field in front of them to protect from subspace time fluctuations or something. But even though the Rios says it right here that we don't have any of that stuff, so we can't go into a conduit, that's exactly what they do. They go into a conduit, which reasons. And then she has to punch in some information. Maybe she's opening that stuff up. I don't know, but they don't really explain what the hell she's doing here. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They go to warp and they jump out. And then the Romulans, she is evacuating and she gets attacked by XBs. She tries to fight back and they jump on her Walking Dead style. I thought they were going to stick her with nanoprobes and assimilate her, but she beams out. And these ships that look nothing like Romulan ships, they look like generic sci-fi ships that look really kind of crappy, warp out. And Seven says they're all gone, the cube is ours. So Narissa had said that she's going to shut this abomination down. This cube wouldn't be something they just shut down. There's so much technology on this cube. Harnessing the technology on this cube would make the Romulans the most powerful force in the quadrant. They wouldn't just abandon it. They wouldn't try and shut it down. They wouldn't leave it. This cube is the most important tactical asset that the Romulans have. But they haven't seen all of Star Trek and the writers don't know this, so quantum? I don't know. Plot. And he says, you gonna assimilate me now? And she says no. She disconnects. That's the end of her little story here. This story with Seven could have occupied 10 minutes of an episode. And instead, they intercut it throughout the whole episode and they just fit it. Then you get this shot of the La Sirena at warp. I thought right here that they were actually at the transwarp conduit. But no, this is them in warp. What the hell is this? Whatever happened to just a beautiful shot of the ship cruising and stars streaking by? Discovery has ruined warp. The 09 films have ruined warp. What the fuck is this? Anyway, Picard has a conversation with Rios about knowing his old captain, about knowing the woman who he worked with. And Rios feels like he knew her because he thought of his captain like a father. The captain thought that his old captain was a legend. And they have this just great talk. Picard establishes here that he served as an ensign on the USS Reliant. So I wonder which Reliant it was, what letter it was, because it wasn't the original Reliant. So Picard served on the Reliant. And that was interesting. And it shows him a warp. And Soji shows up. Okay, there was a whole nother thing. He has a conversation with Soji that Starfleet this isn't Soji. He has a conversation with Rios that Starfleet betrayed him, that Starfleet betrayed all of them. DS9 depicted Starfleet as being broken and dark so much better. Whatever. Soji shows up and says, we're there. And she punches in the controls and drops him out at the node. That also doesn't make sense, because it's like, what? Were Picard and Rios just talking and they weren't even paying attention to where they were? And if Soji hadn't come up there and said we're there and dropped them out of warp, they would have overshot their destination? That seems really kind of shitty on Rios' part when he's supposed to be a captain. He's not even paying attention to when they need to come out of warp. That she has to come up there and do it for him? What? So they come out at an exit aperture to the closest node into the Borg transwarp network. She pulls out the compass, which is a reshot shot that Kestra gave her, yes, that Kestra gave her. And they go in, and I only can hope that she set up the integrity field, the chronoton field, which she didn't, but she would have to, which they mentioned, but then they forgot about it as soon as they mentioned it. They fly into the conduit, and then Narek decloaks, and I guess he's got an integrity field and a chronoton field too to enter into this transwarp network conduit. And this is interesting. So, in the episode where Jurati shuts down the Viridian tracker, Narek gets all flustered and angry, and he's like hitting his console. He's like, shit, I've lost them. Except that he didn't lose them, and then he cloaked. So was he trying to trick them into thinking that they lost him? Was he trying to trick them into thinking that they lost him so he would go get Picard and he would continue to follow them? And then he cloaked so they would secretly not know that he was still there following them? Because if he was trying to trick them into thinking that they lost him when they didn't lose him, why did he get all angry and flustered and start hitting his console when he lost the tracker signal? And if he can cloak, why wasn't he just cloaked the whole time and just following them? What was the point of the last episode? If he could cloak the whole time, why wasn't he cloaked? Why was he getting flustered? Why? And he flies in and follows them, and that's the end of the episode. You know, pacing, structure, phlebotinum problems. This episode's good if you don't think about it too hard, but if you start breaking this down piece by piece by piece, there's so much of this episode that just doesn't work and doesn't make sense. That's my review. If you listen to this whole damn thing, I think this is going to be a long one. If you listen to this whole damn thing, thanks. Yeah. Like, subscribe, Gel on True, all that. Have a great day. Phlebotinum.